Never before in the 29-year history of the Cleveland Browns was there a season like the season of 1974. The Browns won only 4 games, lost 10, and for the first time since Art Modell purchased the franchise, never challenged for a title. When the disastrous season finally ended, the winds of change swirled through Cleveland's huge municipal stadium. The biggest change and the most drastic facelift in Cleveland history came on January 22nd, when before a crowded press conference in the Stadium Club, owner Art Modell announced that Forrest Gregg would be the Browns' new head coach.
Forrest Gregg, the 4th head coach in Browns history.
Well, I would have to say that I was greatly influenced by Vince Lombardi. It was really truly a pleasure to have played for the man. He's a great football coach. I did learn a lot from Lombardi, but I'm not Vince Lombardi and will not try to be. I think every coach has to coach according to his own personality.
I might say this, if I can interject one thought. In the past 3 weeks, I might have spoken to at least a dozen of former teammates, coaches, front office people involved with the Packers and the Cowboys. And if this man is half the man they tell me he was, and they think he still is, then we'll be all right.
Forrest Gregg brings to the Browns a background of 14 years as a Green Bay Packer. By the time he played his final game, Gregg had been All-Pro 8 times. Vince Lombardi called him the finest player I ever coached. Last year as Cleveland's line coach, he did an outstanding job. And what was a team weakness at the start of the season was a team strength by its end. With a year in Cleveland under his belt, the new head coach knows the needs of his club. Indeed, much of what he witnessed in 1974 displeased him, but there were high spots too.
Number 26, Charles Davis, fumbled inside the Bengal 10. Browns ball, and with less than a minute remaining in the first half, number 15, Mike Phipps, stood up to the safety blitz and hit Milt Morin for the game's first score.
In the second week of the season, 2 of the Browns' brightest young stars were showcased. It was Steve Holden by air and Greg Pruitt by land as Cleveland easily defeated vastly improved Houston. The most welcome sight was Steve Holden, number 88, hauling in 5 passes, all ending with bruising head-over-heels tackles. Holden proved that he was the big play performer the team needed so badly at wide receiver. But against Houston, he suffered severe knee damage. The Browns had their first victory, but the cost was high, for Steve Holden would miss the next 4 games. Without him, Cleveland lost them all.
Although the Cleveland Browns cakewalked to victory over the Houston Oilers, the man who danced the most was an obscure 15th round draft choice from Widener College in Pennsylvania. His name, Billy White Shoes Johnson.
It was small wonder that Van Green was breathing fire. How could a 5'9", 160-pound rookie run circles around the veteran Cleveland Browns? Every time number 84, Billy Johnson, touched the ball, good things seemed to happen to the once hopeless Houston Oilers. Johnson's runbacks raised temperatures to the boiling point, but that is becoming standard procedure. In his senior year at college, he accounted for 2,500 yards in offense, and scored a touchdown every 7th time he touched the football. Although Johnson's dazzling return set up many opportunities for the punchless Oilers, they capitalized only once on a scoring shot from Lynn Dickey to tight end Mac Alston, number 82. Alston's touchdown gave the Oilers a 7-3 lead. But from that moment on, Dickey rarely found a receiver wearing blue, as 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles wiped out Houston hopes for an upset. Cleveland converted Houston errors into a 10-7 halftime lead on a field goal and a darting touchdown by exciting Greg Pruitt. Facing a very young, untested Oiler defense, quarterback Mike Phipps's attempt to score points in clusters was betrayed by his own receiving corps. However, one receiver who has apparently blossomed is Steve Holden, a #1 draft pick a year ago, who caught one measly pass during the whole 1973 season. Holden's clutch receptions and some clever play action by Phipps spelled victory as the Cleveland Browns won their first of the year 20-7 over the young but surprisingly tough Houston Oilers. Phipps finally did manage to escape the Cardinal rush line, and he hit Jubilee Dunbar to complete a pretty 25-yard pickup. But this was Phipps' longest completion of the game, and the Browns' only touchdown was on a pass not by Mike Phipps, but by running back Greg Pruitt, who hit a wide-open Gloucester Richardson for a 55-yard score.
The Cleveland Browns for only the 4th time. And this start was a shaky one, as Kenny Stabler's first pass of the afternoon was picked off by Charlie Hall and returned for a touchdown, giving Cleveland a sudden 7-0 advantage. A field goal made it 10-0. But after the following kickoff, the Cleveland Browns got moving again as Mike Phipps drilled tight end Milton Moore in with this 24-yarder. And 2 plays later, with the ball at the Oakland 34, Phipps found Greg Pruitt behind Gerald Irons, and Cleveland had a surprising 17-7 first quarter lead. Phipps lined one to Gloucester Richardson, who looked on this play like a very famous number 42 from the Browns' glory years. But Richardson's catch led to nothing as both defenses stiffened. Midway through the quarter, Stabler fired long for Fred Biletnikoff, and though the play appeared to backfire when Tom Darden intercepted at the Browns' 2-yard line, the silver and black defense took advantage of Cleveland's precarious field position. A few plays later, Willie Brown's interception and return set up a 1-yard touchdown plunge by Clarence Davis. And the game was beyond Cleveland's reach when Hugh McInnes, number 37, set sail on this 44-yard touchdown run at the top of the 4th quarter. In the end, although they did enough things right to beat many teams, the Browns were overmatched by the richly talented Pride and Poise boys from Oakland, and the Raiders overwhelmed the Browns 40-24. Happy days, 00.
As is their tradition, however, one thing they have been able to do is run the ball. With Leroy Kelly gone and Bo Scott infirm, number 34 Greg Pruitt has become the chief source of excitement. Browns also may have found the big fullback they've been seeking in number 37, bruising Hugh McInnes. With Pruitt, McInnes, and steady number 30 Kenny Brown sharing the backfield, Cleveland rolled up nearly 300 yards on the ground and averaged 8 yards a carry. If their air attack had done only half as well, the Browns might have had a chance against Cincinnati. As it was, their longest pass was thrown by versatile Pruitt. It went to journeyman receiver number 42 Richardson for a 60-yard touchdown, the second the two have teamed up for this year. The crushing 34-24 win kept Cincinnati in first place in the AFC Central and was their second straight runaway against their arch rivals, the Browns. But for Coach Paul Brown, this game had a special satisfaction, for it was his team's first win ever in Cleveland Stadium, his old stomping grounds.
At Three Rivers Stadium, Pittsburgh defensive end Dwight White told an official that he thought more holding penalties should be called. Unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, they needed billy clubs or cattle prods, not hands, to fend off the black and gold rush. The Steelers earned the first break when Hugh McInnes fumbled after a hard hit by Glenn Edwards. Edwards, number 27, trailed the play alertly and recovered teammate Mike Wagner's air ball. While the lightning strike has been absent from the Steeler attack recently, they can still rely on the sporadic brilliance of Franco Harris. Pittsburgh built a 14-0 lead on touchdowns by Harris and running mate Preston Pearson, number 26. But Cleveland hung tough and weathered the storm on the wheels of mini-scooter Greg Pruitt. Always an adept improviser, quarterback Mike Phipps was forced to wing it in on the run against the rampaging Steelers. A Phipps bomb connection was a rarity, but his scrambling was not, as he ran the Browns back into the game. Cleveland drew to within a missed extra point at 14-13 when Phipps found Milt Morin floating free and easy. Although the Steelers bumbled along on offense, they held a 20-16 lead in the fourth quarter. Mike Phipps' last chance to produce victory produced an interception by the omnipresent Glenn Edwards. The interception was just about the death knell for Cleveland title aspirations in the AFC Central, as Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are off and front running.
With 4 straight defeats, there was little to smile about. The team was out of the division race and appeared to be on the precipice of disaster as the Denver Broncos came to the stadium. It was a game the Browns had to win. But Cleveland showed no offense and little defense as Denver dominated all day. Well into the final period, the Broncos led the sluggish Browns 21-9. Then, forced to punt on 4th down, Don Cockcroft pulled off the surprise of the afternoon. The fake punt put Cleveland on the Denver 16, but Brian Sipe, who had replaced starter Mike Phipps, was soon faced with another 4th down situation. This time there was no doubt about the Browns' intentions.
The fourth down on the 16-yard line. They got to get to the 6 to get a first down. 6.5 minutes to play. Here's Sight back to throw, rolling to his right. Looks, throws. It is caught by Holden inside the 6-yard line for the first down on about the 3. And he's down there. Thompson's the man to make the tackle. First down and goal to go on the 3-yard line.
It's a big one. He had to get it deep. Now, the Browns have got to get this thing. The clock is running now at 6 minutes, but they've got to get it in here and not spend 2 or 3 minutes.
Sight was 4 out of 6. 21-9 Denver. The clock, of course, is working against the Browns. Sight rolls back. He's going to run up the middle with it. He's down to the 5, to the 2, to the 1. Touchdown! The score, Denver 21, Cleveland 16. And the big cheer goes up as Denver has to punt with 3:40 remaining and the clock is running. And the Browns will be looking up into the sun. Good snap. Kicks away. To Pruitt. Got it on the 25. Beautiful block thrown by Tarden. He's to the 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Pruitt to the 40. With a man to beat, he's down to the 30. Pruitt to the 20, 15, down to the 10. He's dropped down on the 4-yard line. Greg Pruitt with a magnificent return. The Browns are back in the ball game.
Oh, my. In the last 6 minutes, it's all broken loose here. Yes, the Browns still have to get it in.
72 yards officially.
72-yard return for Greg. Well, he's the boy that can do it. Man.
Few people left the stadium, but very few. There's very little traffic out there. Ball's a foot from the goal line. Sight reaching under. Quarterback sneak. Oh, he rolls to the right. He's in for a touchdown! Sight hit the middle of the line, and he got nowhere, and he rolled out and turned right in, and there was nobody within 10 yards of him.
Unbelievable give.
You can hear the fans counting it off. That's the end of today's game.
The Browns came up with 14 points here in the final quarter. After the first 3 quarters, they had just 3 field goals.
Trailing 21-9 going into the 4th quarter, and Brian Sight, along with a great return by Greg Pruitt, pulled them out. The Browns have upset the Denver Broncos. The final score, the Browns 23, the Broncos 21.
The last time the Denver Broncos traveled to the shores of Lake Erie to face the Cleveland Browns was 3 years ago, when the then last-place Broncos upset and embarrassed the first-place Browns 27-0. Last Sunday, it was the Browns who were looking for the upset.
After a rocky start, the Denver Broncos were finally riding high with 3 consecutive victories. Against the Browns, it looked as though 4 straight would not be asking a lot. Charlie Johnson directed the game's first score toward Riley Odoms, Denver's super strong tight end. Dr. Johnson made it 14-0 with a short flip to Jerry Simmons, number 80, the 10-year wide receiver from Bethune-Cookman. Then it was Otis Armstrong's turn to chew up the Browns. The second-year Mighty Mite rushed for 142 yards and Denver's 3rd touchdown of the day. Mike Phipps gamely tried to fight back with long passes, one of which found his new starting fullback, Hugh McInnes. For the day, it was mostly frustration for Phipps, who could complete only 8 of 25 passes and was thrown for losses 6 times. The Broncos were running away with the game until a late punting situation for the Browns and for versatile Don Cockcroft, number 12. A 4th and 12 play became a 27-yard gain and set the stage for Cleveland's other quarterback, a person named Brian Sipe. Sipe's scrambling score brought Cleveland within 5 points. The defense held, and Billy Van Heusen had to punt the Broncos out of trouble. Unfortunately for Denver, more trouble was waiting in the person of Greg Pruitt. Pruitt's 72-yard return put the struggling Cleveland offense in perfect position. And in one of the most unusual quarterback sneaks in history, bouncing Brian Sipe became an instant hero. After 4 straight losses, the Browns had won an upset, 23-21. Brian Sipe, one of the least publicized of Don Coryell's San Diego Staters, was suddenly the man of the hour for Nick Scourige's Browns. As Scourige said after the game, "I may even give Sipe his own locker now."
The next Sunday in San Diego, Brian Sipe returned to his hometown a hero. With a torrent of short and medium-range passes to a semi-healthy Steve Holden, the former star from San Diego State had a brilliant afternoon. The young backfield of Holden, McGinnis, and Pruitt each scored once, while Brian Sipe went 16 of 23, and for the second week in a row scored 2 touchdowns. But in this high-scoring game, the Chargers were just as explosive. They threw 3 long bombs to overtake the Browns by a point with just 55 seconds remaining in the game. Cleveland's defense had again shown a disturbing penchant for permitting the big play. But as he had done repeatedly in his 2 years as a pro, little Greg Pruitt came through when he was needed most. Pruitt's 61-yard return and a subsequent swing pass to him for 14 more put the Browns on the Chargers' 6. Now with just 22 seconds left, Cleveland called a play designed to kill more time, so as an almost certain Cockcroft field goal would be the winner. The play was a sneak, one of football's simplest and safest. But here, with the NFL's most accurate kicker waiting in the wings, Brian's song went sour. It was a play that symbolized the season.
Yes, that is a wedding ceremony being celebrated in the stands. And it nearly overshadowed the eagerly anticipated homecoming of homegrown Browns quarterback Brian Sipe. But cool Brian was unflustered, and he unleashed a furious first-quarter passing display. On 2 passes to Steve Holden, Sipe moved the Browns to an early 7-0 lead. Sipe's virtuoso passing display opened up the Chargers' defense, and tiny Greg Pruitt flew through the breach as Cleveland appeared on the verge of routing San Diego. Trailing 21-7, quarterback Dan Fouts revved up his right arm and rainbowed a touchdown to rookie phenom Don Woods. Fouts narrowed the Browns' lead to 21-19 with a rollout pitch to set back Glenn Bonner, who was covered by defensive end Mark Ilgenfritz, of all people. But when the Chargers tried a double reverse, they found double trouble in the form of the Browns' Nick Roman, number 81. Roman's recovery was converted into a Hugh McInnes touchdown on the first play of the 4th quarter, and Cleveland led 28-19. Dan Fouts passed for 333 yards on the day, and 70 quick yards came on this coast-to-coaster to rookie Harrison Davis. Davis' score cut the margin to a short-lived 28-26 as Brian Sipe rolled to his 4th touchdown in 2 weeks as Cleveland seesawed back into a 9-point lead, 35-26. It was a game of give and take, and Fouts grabbed it all with a pump fake bomb to Don Woods. Every time Cleveland had threatened to blow the game open, San Diego had answered, and Brian Sipe's homecoming took on all the aspects of a wake. With 58 seconds remaining, Ray Wershing booted the Chargers into the lead for the first time, 36-35. Having come so far, the jubilant Chargers thought they would celebrate victory a minute early. But on the ensuing kickoff, Greg Pruitt spiked the champagne with a 61-yard return. Cleveland moved to the Charger 10, and with 22 seconds left, Sipe wanted to position the Browns for the winning field goal when he fumbled. One play turned Sipe from hero to GOAT as San Diego eked out a 1-point win, 36-35.
The next week on the East Coast, Greg Pruitt continued what he began on the West Coast. On the opening kickoff, Pruitt floated patiently behind his blocking wedge, then burst free to go 88 yards for a touchdown against New England. On the very next series, Cleveland's defense got a score when Charlie Hall hit Mac Herron from behind. His fumble was gathered in by Tom Darton and taken 29 yards to pay dirt. With less than 2 minutes gone in the game, Cleveland led 14-0. In this game, the defense atoned for its generosity in San Diego, harassing Jim Plunkett into 4 interceptions. 2 by Tom Darden, who had his best day as a pro. The Browns' defeat of the Eastern Division leaders fatally damaged their playoff hopes. What's more, Cleveland's thieving secondary began a stretch where it stole 12 passes in 4 games.
Hi, I'm Tom Brookshire.
And I'm Pat Summerall. As we head into the 10th week of the NFL season, the playoff picture is starting to come into focus, Tom.
Boy, out in the West it is. Oakland 8-1 leads by 3.5, and the Rams lead by 4, and they've won 7 times and lost but twice.
NFC Central picture is pretty clear, too. Minnesota's 7-2 after the win. They lead by 3.
Yeah, big one beating St. Louis,
Right.
I think, on Monday night. But how about the AFC Central?
Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, the Bengals with that big victory last week, are right back in the picture.
Anderson was incredible, I guess. What? He
was.
had 16 straight from one game to the next.
Right, and 20 out of 22, I think.
Incredible.
NFC East, St. Louis is now 7-2, and Washington 6-3, and Dallas 5-4 play this week.
Well, I think that's the wild card spot everybody's talking about, but I don't think the Cardinals can take that division for granted yet. I think they still got to win a couple.
That's going to be a tough game in Washington. AFC East, Buffalo and Miami, both 7-2, and they play this week.
And they play in Miami, where I understand the Dolphins haven't lost in 28 straight.
Remarkable. We'll be right back with This Week in the NFL after this message.
It used to be that every game the Houston Oilers won was considered an upset of near epic proportions. Well, last week they did it again, but don't be surprised if 1 week soon the Oilers are listed as favorites.
From the outset, it didn't appear to be the Buffalo's day to roam. But then the Oilers also seemed reluctant to execute in a winning manner. And number 12, George Amundsen's arm was loaded with blanks. Finally, however, the Bills' faulty play outlasted Houston's, and much of the blame must be carried by Buffalo's Joe Ferguson and the 6 interceptions he threw. This one helped start the Oiler gusher, and number 34, Willie Rogers, gave Houston an early lead on his 13-yard off-tackle jaunt to the end zone. Then Dan Pastorini went to the air with good success as number 23, Vic Washington, turned near disaster into a healthy gain. Pastorini to number 82, Mac Alston, up the Oiler lead to 14-0, and another stunner was in the making. A good punt return by Buffalo's second-year cornerback Donnie Walker, number 26, finally put the Bills on the right track, and 2 John Leipold field goals put them within striking distance. But throughout the afternoon, Joe Ferguson was having passing problems of one sort or another. There were times when he had to make long searches for wide-open receivers like number 89, Wallace Francis. Then there were times when he searched, fired long, and saw an easy touchdown to J.D. Hill, barely tipped away. And then there was the added frustration of a field that was inches too short. Finally, and most destructive to the Bills' plans, there were those ever-painful interceptions. This one picked off by number 22, Zeke Moore. But in the end, it was not Buffalo's ineptitude. Rather, it's Houston's steady and remarkable improvement that decided the game when Vic Washington sprinted in to make the final score 21-9. 3 in a row for the Oilers. And look out, NFL, because the one-time town pushover is carrying some new muscle.
Statistically, pro football teams are measured just about to the millimeter, Pat, but if you really want to know whether your favorite team has gotten serious about being good, see how stingy they are with turnovers and if their special units are really effective.
That's right, Tom. And the New England Patriots seem to have forgotten the secrets of their early season success when they got tangled up with the Cleveland Browns last week.
From the opening kickoff up in Foxborough, the Patriots began overlooking the secrets of their success when they let Greg Pruitt do it to them for 88 yards and a touchdown. Pruitt's kickoff coast from coast to coast was his first since leaving Oklahoma, where he played for Chuck Fairbanks, the man who is now the head coach of the New England Patriots. Another look at Pruitt's prance through the Pats once again recalls a lesson that there is a big place for a quick little man in a big man's game. And no one is more aware of this than Chuck Fairbanks, who has used both Randy Vataha and Mac Herron to great advantage this season. But this time, Fairbanks reaped the whirlwind, as Pruitt, who used to do it for him, now did it to him, and that's irony, English students, that's irony. But for the Patriots, facing the league's most generous defense, the sudden 7 points didn't seem to be a significant setback. Then New England erred in the second imperative and gave away a turnover. Mac Herron lost the handle after receiving a Jim Plunkett pass, and Tom Darden, who could contribute twice more to the Cleveland cause with interceptions, turned the turnover into 6 more points, and the Browns took a 14-0 lead with less than 2 minutes gone in the game. In the second quarter, New England began recouping their losses. A 10-play attack on the ground led to the Patriots' first touchdown. And the next time the Pats got the ball, Jimmy Plunkett was right back in business. A tough rush from the Browns forced Plunkett to put this mallard up for grabs. But a charitable interference call in the end zone gave New England first down at the Cleveland 1. And Sam Cunningham banged over with his second short score to knot the game at 14. Late in the game, Brian Sipe got the Browns' attack in gear. The Cleveland drive led to a tie-breaking field goal, but a penalty gave Cleveland another shot at 7 points. Cleveland's offense cashed in its only contribution of the game when Ken Brown banged over, and at least temporarily, the Patriots seemed to have lost the winning knack, losing to the Cleveland Browns 21-14.
In their place were such unlikely heroes as Cleveland rookie quarterback Brian Sipe and Pittsburgh's third-string passer Terry Hanratty, who was starting in hopes of energizing Pittsburgh's passing game. But Pittsburgh's ineffective passing continued as Hanratty was intercepted thrice and was victimized time and time again by hole-in-the-hand receivers. The Steelers' air attack was so dreadful that they completed only 3 passes in 19 tries. But some of the credit has to go to Cleveland's secondary, which was tough near their own goal line. For Cleveland, young Brian Sipe has replaced Mike Phipps and has brought back the short passing game, reminiscent of the Bill Nelson days. But Sipe has the arm to go long, too, and this pass to Milton Morin gave Cleveland's offense its best shot of the day. Brown's secondary and Van Green in particular that finally got Cleveland a touchdown. The score, combined with 3 field goals, gave Cleveland the lead until early in the fourth quarter. The only time the Browns produced was within the final minutes of play as Mike Phipps finally began connecting with his own receivers. A Phipps to Ken Brown hookup with 8 seconds remaining made the score closer, but the Bills won it anyway, 15-10. Over the rapidly fading Cleveland Browns.
In the sleet and snow of the finale at Municipal Stadium, the elements and the Browns defense combined to clamp down on the San Francisco 49ers. The secondary intercepted just one pass less than the 49ers completed. 5 thefts in all, 2 of them by rookie safety Eddie Brown. The shutout of San Francisco ended an amazing streak in which the defense allowed a total of only 10 pass completions in 3 games.
In Cleveland's Snow Palace Stadium, there was much of the white and fluffy to be cleared from the playing surface. And then things got worse, and it was the quarterbacks who paid. Early, Cleveland's Brian Sipe, number 17, was in the mud often. On the other hand, San Francisco's Tom Owen, number 14, visited muck and mire just as frequently. Things got so bad they started centering the ball from a clean white towel, which seemed to help immeasurably. But as the day and a scoreless game wore on, the field became a bog that brought play execution down to 0. Finally, with less than 5 minutes left in the game, muddy Eddie Brown intercepted a Tom Owen pass and ran it into a snowdrift where he performed the world's lowest bouncing spike. From there, Ken Brown, number mud in your program, battered the Browns to the 1, and then over on the next play to give Cleveland the lone score of the day. And while the game was mercifully over, winter raged mercilessly on. Facing a blowout, Phipps aired it out twice to fleet Steve Holden. Holden beat the coverage of Charlie Waters deep, and then he beat him for 6 with a picture-perfect catch at the end line. Cleveland rallied to within a field goal at 17-14 when Ken Brown scooted in on a picture book sweep.
Game's first series until Cleveland's Mike Phipps turned a 3rd and 23 situation into a shockingly easy touchdown. Number 88, Steve Holden's touchdown had the Browns in front until the second period when a Cleveland punt was handled by most valuable Oiler, 5'9" rookie Billy Johnson, number 84. Billy Johnson set the stage for a Dante Pastorini quickie to tight end Mac Alston, number 82, and the score was tied at the half. 7, Houston, but then another little man took over the show. Greg Pruitt's great play was canceled by a penalty. Bear Hooker scored with 1:24 left, but it wasn't enough to save Cleveland from their 10th loss of this year, their worst season ever. As for Sid Gilman's Oilers, the 28-24 victory was their first in 10 tries against Cleveland and brought Houston its first non-losing season in 5 years. As one Houston player said afterward, it seems like we just won the Super Bowl because these are the guys who lived through hell.
The single biggest factor in the Browns' poor showing was a lack of pass rush from the carousel of defensive ends that played in 1974. Thus, the draft was vital.
Cleveland Browns first round selection. Mac Mitchell, defensive end, Houston.
Massive Mac Mitchell, number 83, is a frightening figure to quarterbacks, hunting them down with unbelievable quickness for a man who stands 6'8" and is still growing. The Browns expect Mitchell to step right in and put teeth to the pass rush. One of the most pleasant developments of the past season was the steady play of rookie Mike Seifert at right end. But the tackle tandem of Jerry Shirk and Walter Johnson were the mainstays of the front four. The giant Johnson, number 71, continued to stop the run. But more than ever, he and Shirk were counted on to pressure the passer because of the weakness at left end. Super quick Jerry Shirk, number 72, was the team's strongest pass rusher. The younger half of the tackle partnership came into his own with a brilliant season. Behind them in the middle is number 60, Bob Babbage, a heavy hitter with a nose for the ball. Led by Babbage, the Browns linebackers defend against the pass exceptionally well. On the outside is rangy Charlie Hall, number 59. On the right is speedy John Garlington, number 50, who is fast enough to outrun his mistakes. With number 53, Mel Long, and number 56, Jim Romanishin, the best headhunters on the bomb squad, linebacker is the deepest unit on the team and should be a major contributor to Forrest Gregg's peace of mind next year. Slender Clarence Scott is the defensive captain and left cornerback. Opposing passers rarely challenge him, for he covers his man like an overcoat. Scott was a big reason the Browns' secondary ranked second only to Pittsburgh in pass defense in the American Conference. Free safety Tom Darden had plenty of reason to smile about his performance. He led the team with 8 interceptions. Darden and Scott were the strengths of the secondary, but right cornerback was the Achilles heel. Cliff Brooks, number 23, had his moments, but was susceptible to the long pass. So volatile Van Green was switched from safety to cornerback and replaced with number 28, Eddie Brown, who had a fine rookie year. As expected, Green had difficulties in a strange position, but his coverage improved, and he kept his reputation as a vicious tackler. Like a guided missile launched at a target, number 21 is at the point of destruction. And in 1975, Van Green, with his reckless abandon, will return to his true position at strong safety. The change can be made because the new coaching staff feels they picked 2 solid candidates in the draft who will challenge for the vacant corner spot. Cleveland's third choice was number 16, Oklahoma's highly rated Tony Peters, while the 6th pick was West Virginia's aggressive Charlie Miller, number 21. Cleveland's most valuable player may well be Don Cockcroft. Cockcroft's field goal percentage was an unbelievable 88%. He missed only 2 all year, both near midfield. It was the second most accurate kicking performance in league history. Forrest Gregg's offensive line is easily the most improved element of the team. By season's end, they were opening gaping holes for Pruitt, Hugh McGinnis, and Ken Brown. Upgrading of the ground game is essential next season, and further maturing from the forward wall will be needed to achieve that goal. The tackles will be two Illini, 6'6" Doug Deacon and number 79, surprising Jerry Sullivan, who became a starter in his rookie year. His development could enable Greg to switch John DeMari to center and move number 78, Bob McKay, into DeMari spotted guard. The key to these changes is the blossoming of young Pete Adams as a potential all-pro guard. A first-round draft choice, Adams never stopped hitting, and number 69 became a dangerous man on the sweep, with a combination of speed and power missing in Cleveland since Gene Hickerson's heyday. One of the recipients of Adams' ability as a pulling guard was versatile Kenny Brown, number 30. While Brown and Pruitt depend on speed and quickness, powerful Hugh McInnes, number 37, provides much-needed muscle at fullback. The Browns are counting on McInnes and rookies Billy Pritchett and Henry Hynoski to inject even more power at the position next year. Greg Pruitt was a marked man in 1974. The tattered jersey was his trademark as the Mighty Mite from Oklahoma became the Browns' chief offensive weapon. Pruitt was simply everywhere, scoring touchdowns, catching passes, and even throwing them. He brought the option pass back to the Browns' playbook, hitting 2 out of 2, each for a long touchdown. Pruitt led the team in punt returns and was the best in the American Conference in kickoffs. He also brought back the longest of the year. Altogether, the little scatback led or was second in 8 different offensive categories for the Browns. Next season, under Forrest Gregg, Pruitt will see even more action and will continue to not only fill the shoes of the great Leroy Kelly, but to challenge Bobby Mitchell as the most exciting open field runner in Cleveland history. The firm conviction throughout the Cleveland organization is that Mike Phipps has the talent needed to be a superior quarterback. He was under heavy pressure last year because of the lack of talent at wide receiver. 1974 was not a banner year for Cleveland quarterbacks. But because of Brian Sipe, the Browns know they have 2 capable of starting. Sipe had a storybook season, coming off the bench to spark the victory over Denver and leading the win over New England. But he, too, along with Mike Phipps, was betrayed by the lack of quality at the 1 wide receiver spot. Tight end is one position where there is no worry, however, for it's in the excellent hands of Milt Morin, whose great concentration makes him the man to go to in crucial situations. But the big story was Steve Holden, who emerged from his cocoon to dazzle opponents with his size and speed. Though he missed nearly half the season and was double-teamed consistently, the former Arizona State star showed that he is indeed the long ball receiver the team so badly needs. The new staff knows it will be difficult for the Holden-Phipps partnership to flourish without a genuine threat on the other side. Thus, a bevy of talented candidates have been added. Reggie Rucker, who came in a trade, led the conference with 53 catches 2 years ago and may take the heat off Holden with his flair for the big play. Another blue-chip candidate with a golden opportunity is SMU's towering Oscar Rohn. Rohn was rated the top tight end in the country by the scouting combines, but a nationwide audience saw him shine at flanker in Hawaii's Hula Bowl. He caught 7 passes and scored 3 touchdowns. Rohn is now projected at wide receiver, and with his 6'6" height, will be the largest and one of the fastest targets this side of Philadelphia's Harold Carmichael. From the draft also comes Willie Armstead, a receiver from Utah, with speed, size, and a chance to make it in the pros. A pick of unusual interest was Southern California's J.K. McKay, a receiver with great hands and a gift for the spectacular. He's rated short in size and speed, but has made the key plays in the biggest games. The Browns feel that they may have a Howard Twilley type in J.K. McKay. So with a brace of bright new receiving talent, plus a healthy Steve Holden, Mike Phipps should have ample opportunity to showcase his powerful throwing arm next season. As the recipient of new quarterback coach Blanton Collier's vast storehouse of football knowledge, Phipps should return to the form he showed in his first season as a regular when the Browns won 10 games. With the injection of youth and speed the new staff has supplied, the Cleveland offense can't help but be more explosive in 1975. The Cleveland Browns have long been something special in pro football, for no other franchise has won so often for so long. Until last year, the Browns managed to avoid the downward sweep of the pendulum that affects all teams. Now, after a dramatic turnover in personnel, hopefully the winds of change will thrust the Cleveland Browns toward a bright future to go with its proud past.